Well, hello there. Do you struggle with actually making progress year after year and you feel a bit overwhelmed and really not sure if it's all about your curriculum or if it's just other things and you're really contemplating a curriculum change or maybe even a change to a method of homeschooling? If so, I have some good things to share with you today that will help you process this whole homeschool life that we do and be able to give you a little bit more peace in your day and help you secure smoother and easier days as you implement. I'm Dollie Freeman, and I'm the host of the Charlotte Mason Way Show. And today we're going to be talking about identifying those limiting homeschool mindsets. We all have them. And what's really important to understand is that every homeschooling mama actually is overwhelmed at some point. And the overwhelm is really determined by how much is in your life. With that, you have to take some type of evaluation to really get a grip on what it is your unique lifestyle is bringing into your homeschooling, and more importantly, what the lifestyles of others bring into your homeschool. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and how everyone's opinions, everyone's personal experience is what actually helps form our mindsets about homeschooling. It's those mindsets that gives us projections of what we expect of ourselves and leave us feeling a bit on the side of failures if we don't reach up to those expectations. So comment for me in the comments and let me know if you're struggling right now, feeling like you're a failure because you're not reaching those expectations. If you are, I want you to stay with me to the end because I have some really good tips that should help you in not only identifying, but helping you eliminate some key things that are going to be pivotal and moving you forward as a successful Charlotte Mason mama. So I look forward to interacting with you on this chat today. So just post them in there and let me know if you have questions along the way. We're going to stay on topic today, and then I'll answer your questions in the end. All right, so what I want to do before I talk about identifying those limiting beliefs is I want to share with you that every homeschool mama has to understand that there is a truth before you can process the limiting beliefs that you might be facing and that I'm going to be sharing with. It wasn't until I myself understood this truth, not overcame it, but understood this truth before I was able to overcome those other limiting beliefs. So the truth is this, and we're going to start this out today. The truth is delegation is necessary to remove endless friction. I'm not sure about how your life is right now, but a lot of homeschoolers are in that constant, endless friction. And guess what? That leaves you weary. As a homeschooling mama, it definitely leaves you weary. What my desire is to help you understand that you need to begin to delegate. Once you begin to delegate, those weary days, those times of just feeling very overwhelmed will get easier and easier. But here's a few things that I want to share with you found in the pages of Charlotte Mason to kind of direct us and help us to understand what those are, as I'm giving you a curriculum process to be able to migrate through these mindsets that we have adopted, like it or not, and they will play a role in how effective you are in homeschooling and the progression you have year after year. All right, so let's talk about this quote before we get going, right? The truth of this show is that delegation is necessary. Charlotte Mason says, the more we do for a child, the less he will do for himself. I don't know about you, but I know that's 100% true. So as we're going into this, I want you to be thinking about that truth quote and the anchor for today's show about the more we do for a child, the less he'll do for himself. It's straight from Charlotte Mason's pages. So I want you to anchor that in today as we talk about the mindsets. All right, so here's number one. Mindset number one that I really want you to really understand is that children aren't capable of doing more. This is something that the homeschooling community, for whatever reason, has put on us. If you look back 100 years ago, 150 years ago, at the test level of children in eighth grade, which was the last grade before they would go into formal education for college at that time, eighth grade's test is something that would blow your mind. We have this mindset that children aren't capable of doing more, and it's not true. History will show us that children are very capable of learning very complex information. They're able to understand it, retain it, retell it, and benefit from it. So we need to remove the idea that children aren't capable of doing more. Once you begin to understand that, with that anchoring quote for today, that the more we do for children, the less he will do for himself, is not just about around the house, it's in their lessons as well. So for my life, if I'm sitting there and sounding out words with my son, who, yes, struggles with dyslexia, but is overcoming it in an amazing way. So if I sit there and keep sounding out those words, instead of letting him develop that skill, how long am I going to sit there and do that for him? Right? At some point, I've got to empower him and say, you've got this. You are capable more than you know. And when I have that confidence and require it of him, he is going to be doing far more, because now mom is saying, you can do this. And that's going to build his confidence. And then it's going to make my day easier, because now I'm removing that endless friction of having to do more for him, because I've recognized that he's capable. We have 100 years ago to show us just how capable children are in learning, right? So we just have to give them more. I hope this is helping someone today. I have a story, and I love this, that Charlotte Mason uses this story inside her original series. And, it was the story that I learned about and put it into my daughter's study, and she devoured this biography and ended up going to a second biography, and just took a whole turn into American Sign Language and learning Braille, and just getting all into this because of the story I learned in Charlotte Mason's original series about Helen Keller. Now, Helen Keller, you probably know, became blind and deaf from an infant. She was 19 months old when she had a disease that left her blind and deaf. Well, her parents, believing that she wasn't capable of enough, gave her the habits of really uncontrollable. She was actually very uncontrollable, eating off everyone's plates, walking around the table, throwing things. She could not communicate, and they assumed that they weren't able to communicate with her. And so out of frustration, they hired a teacher, Anne Sullivan, to come and work with her, because they were weary in the endless friction that her inabilities had caused them. And so it wasn't until Anne separated her from her parents and literally said, I can't teach her until you are hands off. I need to take her completely, because Anne was at the place where she knew she was capable. She knew that Helen Keller had the abilities inside her, and she knew that the more I do for her, the less she'll do for herself. And it was a process. She was intentional about every bit of that. And next thing you know, she realized that, you know what, I can communicate with this girl. And little by little, her confidence, Helen Keller's confidence, is like, I can communicate. And once she got a glimpse of, I can understand, even though I can't see or hear, I can understand what this water means. And that just ignited the ideas in her head. And she went after that. But she needed an Anne Sullivan in her life to tell her, guess what? Tell her parents, that's a limiting belief that you think because that Helen Keller is blind and deaf, she's not capable of learning and communicating, because she very much is. And so I always look back to that and think it doesn't matter if you have a special needs child. If you are dedicated to that child's learning process and believing that child is capable of more, you will remove that hindering idea, that mindset that a child isn't capable of doing something. And you will see leap and bounds growth year after year, because you've put the effort and intentions in giving that child the ability to do more for themselves. And guess what, Charlotte Mason Mama? That means it removes that weariness, because endless friction is starting to disappear. All right, so I hope that helps you guys with that. Now let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is struggling learners aren't ready to learn. You know, sometimes I can get emotional about this particular mindset, because I believed this for a long time. And I was hearing well-meaning advice in the homeschooling community. At the time, I thought it was well-meaning, but once I kind of got on the other side of it, I realized, you know, misery loves company. And so if a parent isn't very consistent and intentional in teaching a child to read, or make sure they have the best resources and devoted a focused time to helping a child learn the mechanics of reading and writing and arithmetic, it will help them to move forward. But if they're not being consistent in that, intentional in that, and focused in that, the child's going to struggle. So what I found in the homeschooling community is that to help everyone feel better about their lack of the ability to get their children to learn, they would quickly just say, well, guess what? A struggling reader is just not ready to read. Put it down and try it again in another few months, another 6 months, another year. If they're not grasping that math, come back to it in 6 months and 12 months. Well, I got to the point where I was like, you know what? My child is really getting to the point of feeling he's absolutely stupid. He was crying over lessons. I was crying over lessons. I had already successfully taught children, over 20 children, to read, including our daughter. And I'm at this point where I'm in tears. He's at tears. Neither one of us are confident in our skill anymore. And yet I'm believing this mindset that he's not ready. And everything inside of him saying, I want to read. I want to be able to do these things. And so when I realized that, you know what, I was believing a mindset that's not true. The more I do for a child, the less he'll do for himself. At that point, I was still reading all of his lessons to him. And I kept thinking, no, I have to build this skill just like I would if he hadn't learned to walk yet. We would focus on that. If he hadn't learned to potty train yet, we would focus on that. We would devote our calendar to staying home and teaching potty training. If they're not sleeping through the night yet, we would devote nights to make sure our routines were in place. Why am I doing this different with reading? And it just clicked, because I said, I'm not going to believe that mindset anymore. My child is capable, he is smart, and he can do this. And so I had to build his confidence. I had to remind myself that I was capable of teaching him. And we put a whole year. I stacked those books up. He got frightened. I got frightened. I said, we're going to do this. And we sat down and reread many times a day. And I went back to my teaching. I was like, you know, I taught our kids to read repetitively in school, and they would go home and they would reread the same thing with their parents, and their skills got better. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on this, and we're going to do it. By the end of that year, that child was reading. That child was very confident in his skills. Later down the road, I found out, yes, he was dyslexic. That was something we never talked about in the homeschooling community. I bawled that night because I realized, oh no, he had an issue. But the truth be told, I had an issue too. I was just not being consistent. And I was hearing the advice of others. And I thought, well, he's just not ready, and putting it down instead of buckling down, being consistent, being focused, and being intentional about teaching him to read. And once I did that, boom, it works. So don't believe the mindset that struggling learners aren't ready to learn. Now, I know some of you might have special needs children, but so was Helen Keller. And it took that focus and intentional and determination to keep going. And next thing you know, Helen Keller was very successful. She graduated from college. She wrote. She was very successful. Of course, Anne Sullivan was at her side throughout the whole time, helping her communicate to everyone. So that's what's really important, is that we release that, totally release that mindset. The third mindset that I want you to get rid of is that children need an involved teacher. The truth of the matter is this, that once a child learns the mechanics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, they don't need us. We have given them the skills necessary to accomplish anything we put in front of them. The key of this is making sure that they have learned the habits of good learning, focused attention, excellent execution, being able to time manage, being able to be aware of deadlines, making sure that they are aware of their grade notebook, what's assigned to them each day, and being responsible for those things. Once we do those things for our children are equipped to be educated children, self-educating children, who will then take ownership of their own education. It's a beautiful thing when we do that. Let me share this quote with you that Charlotte Mason says that really powers down on this mindset of children needing an involved teacher. The business of the teacher is to put him close in the right. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. Let me start this over. Let me move it where I don't have a glare. Okay, the business of the teacher is to put his class in the right attitude towards their book by a word or two of his own interest in the matter contained, of his own delight in the matter of the author. Well, I share that quote with you because oftentimes we Charlotte Mason mamas are confused. We're not sure how to bring delight into our child. Well, it usually starts with the delights of others, right? I've watched all of our children grow up, and I know that when a friend comes with an interest, whether it be Lego, cars, American Girl dolls, I can go on and on of how other children have influenced my children in what they've done. So the thing is, we as parents need to be doing that ourselves. All of our children love vehicles. I don't, but my husband does. All of our children know how to change the tire, change the oil, change the brake pads, including my daughter. She works out in the garage with my husband all the time. All of them, well, my youngest doesn't yet. All of them have this interest because my husband gets excited about these things and he talks about it all the time. This is what's wrong. This is why I know it's this. And he explains that to them. Our children all love history. Why? Because I love history and I get to tell them, this part is what I love the most about this particular person in history. And next thing you know, they want to learn about it. I told you about Helen Keller. I was telling my husband about Helen Keller, and my daughter was like, oh, this sounds really good. And around the time, The Miracle Worker was showing on television. And so we all watched it as a family. Well, next thing you know, my daughter wanted to read the biography, and then she wanted to read Anne Sullivan's biography. She wanted to learn American Sign Language. She dove right into learning, you guys are going to have to help me. The Braille, that's the word. She learned Braille. She got so excited about all of that thing. And I remember going to hotels and she seeing Braille on the wall, and she would feel it. And she's like, oh, I know what this number is. And she got so excited because there was opportunities out there for her to do. So that's what it is. Introduce your children. I guarantee you, if you take a field trip, and you get excited, and what is it that excites you about that field trip? What is it about the topic that gets you excited? Your children are going to be more inclined to then read the books about that, to dig deeper, or vice versa. Before you go to the field trip, do a little bit of a book. Get excited about it, and then the child will be more excited about the field trip. We as teachers, our job is to ignite that interest, introduce our children to various things, have them get excited about all the different subjects. So that is the mindset that I want you guys to have, and not think that you have to be involved in sitting right next to them during their lessons. And when they have the mechanics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, you're done. You just need to keep supplying them wholesome curriculum. So that's something that I just get so excited about. I'm going to put a resource that you might want to grab if you haven't yet. I'm going to also put this in the comments that will help you to be able to grab it. This will help you walk through Charlotte Mason's curriculum. You might be brand new and you might be saying, you know what, Dollie, I have no idea what you're talking about with, biographies, or I don't understand what you're talking about, igniting the interest and stuff. This should help you. This should help you get started. All right, so I'm here for some questions for a little bit longer. I know I went a little longer today, but can I just say, we got to get rid of some mindsets. Mindsets are going to be the thing that holds you right where you're at. It's going to stop your progress. It's going to keep you overwhelmed. It's going to keep you weary in the endless frictions. There are so many mindsets, and I only picked the top 3 that made a world of difference to my homeschool when I let go of them. There are more out there, but what you have to do is recognize and be able to identify, what is it that I think about this particular aspect, and why do I think it? And then get into Charlotte Mason's original writings and let her help you move forward. Keep showing up for this. Let me do that for you. Hello, Street Rat. Okay, so these are the opposite of the mindsets we need. Yes, these are the things that you have to identify. What is it that you're hearing and that are wrong, right? So I'm identifying the mindset you probably have right now. You probably have heard about it. You might actually be walking it right now. When you identify that mindset, it's only then that you can adopt a new one. So not only did I help you identify the negative mindset you need to release, but I gave you the new one to actually embrace and adopt. So Lynn says, I think you nailed it. We struggle with how. Lynn, I'm not sure you struggle with how. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm glad that you're feeling like I've nailed it on this one. This gets me excited because honestly, it was in that process that for the first probably 4 years of Charlotte Mason, maybe even 5, that, I just kept reading those original writings and I kept finding quotes and highlighting them and saying, well, how does that look in today's education? And then in the process, but why am I caught up here? A lot of it had to do with my own understanding of what education today looks like, my own education, the way I taught kindergarten, and having to break away from those mindsets to adopt this new mindset of Charlotte Mason method that truly works to grow and raise self-educating children. So when you really stop and process, why do I think that my child is not ready to learn just because he's struggling? I could struggle to teach my child how to drive. Doesn't mean he's not ready. It just means he doesn't have those foundational skills to know how to drive safely, right? So you have to teach your children the vocabulary of potty training before they're ready to actually go and potty train, right? That's a process. And we have to realize there's a process in everything that we do. And our children are ready. They're capable. Oh my goodness, our children are far more capable than we give them credit for. And in that process, we need to ignite excitement in our children about what they're learning. Lynn says, you are so right. I was doing well and then fell back into what we didn't even like because of other people's opinion. You have given me what I needed to get back where I need to be. I love that. My mindset that I previously had pulled me back in. That's a whole nother topic. I'm going to tell you, Lynn, I can talk about that for so long because I've been there, done that. Those mindsets are the hardest things for us to actually let go of because we have our own educational system. Well, that's not how I learned, and so we keep going back. But the fact of the the fact of that matter is we don't remember everything we learned, and we want better for our children. And if you look back, I mean, search for it. There is actually a test going around the internet. I've seen it so many times over the years of an 8th grader's test. And I was like, what? You think you have a problem with word problems in math? You should see their word problems. It's crazy. And when I saw that and connected it with what Charlotte Mason says about our children are far more capable than we give them credit for, it all connected with me, is that I am not going to give my children bite-sized education. I'm giving my children a whole plethora, a feast of education. So it starts with being intentional, consistent, and focused in what it is that you're trying to teach your children. All right, you guys, next week, I'm not going to have a show for the next 2 weeks. I'm taking Christmas off. So I will be back on January 6th. I hope you join me. I'm going to be talking about 3 habits that are hindering your homeschool success and what to do and what to do instead. So this is really important because everything we do are about habits. Our mindset start the habits, but it's our actions that keep us stuck. So I'm going to help you understand those hindering habits you want to get rid of and what to do instead to keep moving forward and have a progression year after year. And so I want you to plan for about 90 minutes. I'm so excited about this one because habits are the key. So write down January 6th and make sure that you are here for 90 minutes. It's going to be good. If you're not part of my email list, go to thecharlottemasonway.com, sign up for that because I go deeper on my newsletters each week. And so you're going to want to kind of like jump in. I have amazing things planned for 2021. You don't want to miss that. So head on over to thecharlottemasonway.com and join the newsletter. You don't want to miss those. Yes, I am so glad. I hope you women have an amazing Merry Christmas. We all deserve to just enjoy our family and enjoy the reason for the season. It's been a difficult year for so many, and it's time to just breathe. It's time to cuddle with our family, and it's time to just enjoy the baking in the kitchen. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.